Hi, I'm Dee Daly. I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm very much interested in asking you if you'd like to take a seat with me here today to discuss well-being and how to mind your well-being, or maybe how to improve on your well-being, whatever the case may be for you. Well-being is an umbrella term that encompasses a state of being comfortable, healthy, and emotionally secure, and happy in life. It can be broken down into several dimensions, including emotional, physical, social, and spiritual aspects. Emotionally, well-being refers to how we feel and how well we regulate those feelings. Physically, it involves maintaining a healthy body and regular exercise. Regular exercise is so important, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on when I speak about something called dopamine, because exercise flows dopamine, and dopamine is so important for our well-being, for our happiness, because it creates issues with serotonin and GABA. Another aspect that's really important is our balanced diet and adequate sleep. Sleep allows for us literally to reset, to come into a place of clarity, to have the energy to work our days. Another important dimension is our work-life balance. How we manage the demands of work and personal life in a way that facilitates or allows us to contribute to a fulfilling and meaningful existence. Social well-being relates to our ability to form nurturing and meaningful relationships. It's about feeling connected and supported by others. Learning and cognitive growth also play a key role. Our well-being includes the capacity to expand our minds, develop problem-solving skills, and continue to grow intellectually. The environmental dimension then, another dimension, involves the safety and quality of our surroundings. This includes not only physical safety, but also the social safety within our environments, where we can feel safe, where people can feel secure and respected. Then there's the cultural and social awareness, which is also extremely essential. Embracing diversity, understanding that our perspectives may differ from others, which is so important for communication skills and to be able to connect with others. I have a perspective and somebody else has a different perspective. I mightn't agree with it, but it means somehow we can respect each other in our differences. And then there's that fostering of mutual respect that helps to create a sense of belonging based on shared values and experiences. Lastly, our spiritual well-being, probably not the least, but the most important in another sense, because it involves finding purpose in life, meaning in life, that connection, whether through relationships, personal beliefs, or a sense of something greater than oneself. Together, these dimensions form a holistic picture of well-being, supporting a balanced, fulfilling, and meaningful life. Isn't it wonderful to think that we can actually achieve that? But not just for today or tomorrow. This is something that needs to grow through our lives and the journey of our lives to the end. Today, I would like for you to join me in an exploration. I'm going to look at the first dimension as an example in a few moments, where I'm giving you an intervention that is going to support you to create and facilitate meaningfulness in a dimension. And I'm going to pick emotionality. But indeed, you'll have the opportunity to pick whichever dimension you want. So in the words of Henry David Thoreau, it's not what you look at that matters. It's what you see, and even what you hear and how you hear it. So as we take a seat together, all through these episodes, I would love for you to come with curiosity. Curiosity is so important. It's the one thing we are born with. with eyes of a newborn. Imagine the newborn seeing things for the first time. I want you to adapt those particular eyes as we journey and explore together. The American essayist, poet, and practical philosopher Henry David Thoreau is renowned for having lived the doctrines of transcendentalism, as recorded in this masterwork by Walden in 1854. He was also an advocate of civil liberties, but in looking at transcending, I think of Immanuel Kant, who said that in order to understand the nature of reality, one must first examine and analyse the reasoning process which governs the nature of experience. And that's what we do as human beings. We analyse. Today, we're going to look at one of the dimensions, as I said already, emotionality. But that's for later. And we will apply the SMART goals to this as an example of how to start putting well-being, looking at the dimension of emotion, into focus. However, as we do this, the SMART goals that I'm going to show you, literally you can utilise for any of the dimensions in life that you choose to look at. Your focus will be in place and then we'll improve on it. The dimensions are like ingredients that feature and dictate to how well you build your best life. We've already named some of the dimensions earlier. I went down through them. Now I invite you, take a sheet of paper and put the dimensions, the headings, into a table. You can choose the dimensions that you most want to work on, the things that are impacting on you in your life. It could be your sociology, it could be something to do with work-life balance. But one that is important to you, what goals would you assign to each of the dimensions that you pick in order to be living your best life in each dimension or in that dimension? What are the goals that you would like to satisfy in order to achieve a greater sense of control and well-being in your life? Ask that question. What are the goals I would like to achieve within the dimensions of my life that are important to me? Remember, I'm going to apply an example of how to do this in a few minutes. And then you will have that recipe, you'll have that intervention that you can take with you to your life if that's what you want to do. But generally, the first steps are to clarify and to write down those goals that need to be clear in order to start focusing in on what it is you want to achieve. So we're going to make goals and they need to be clear before they can be achieved. To have a goal is to have direction. And direction in life is so important because if we have direction, we can take steps towards something. We know what it is we want to focus on. And then we have purpose. Purpose allows for meaning to happen in our actions. Our well-being is purposeful. And it needs to be purposeful. Nobody else can put your well-being first. Only you can do that. You are the person that looks after your soul. Your destiny as such is in your hands. And then you get to apply fully what it is you want to create. Newness that aligns with your life's values. And your values are something maybe you haven't thought about, but it's something to think about, something that needs to be aligned. Often if our values are not being met in our different parts of life and the different dimensions, well then we're feeling dissatisfied. Hence why we look at the dimension that we wish to work on to see how does that align with my values? Where is the dissatisfaction that's coming in? So the SMART goals. This is where we're planning for the future. This is the planning for change. It means we need to have then our focus goals. The goals need to be clear, but also to be able to support or developmental change. And life is a journey of changes. It's not just one thing to be achieved and that's it. It is ongoing. Your very being will be challenged, but if you set your goals authentically to align with who you are as an individual, well then guess what? Your chances of making that come true, that realization, is very, very probable. However, they also need to be realistic goals and they need to be attainable. So now, how will I break down those principles for setting goals in greater detail? The goals need to be clear, but also to be able to support developmental change in your very being. And they will then challenge you if set authentically. And they need to be set authentically, align with your true values. However, they also need to be realistic and attainable. Now I'll break down the principles for setting goals in greater detail with clarity and direction. Goals help you to define what you want to achieve in life. Without them, you may drive aimlessly through life or react to life rather than actually shape your life. Goals are about moulding, in a sense, the dimension that you want to satisfy in the way that you envision it, the way that you actually want it to be. The goal is like a map. It guides your decisions and keeps you on track. Motivation and drive is essential. And again, if you find that you're reaching those goals, that's what's going to increase your motivation and continue your drive to reach the potential, what it is you want to achieve. Having a goal gives you something to strive for. It's not aimless. You're striving for something. It's a vision. You can see that. And you sense that. You're using your senses to literally achieve. It fuels motivation, especially when you're facing challenges. Indeed, goals can push you to work harder, keep you focused, to stay committed, and to persist through setbacks, because you'll have achieved so much and then, you're going to get setbacks. We all get setbacks. Nothing is a smooth journey, and it's important to realise that. Take the setbacks. That's what builds resilience. Focus and prioritisation. When you set those goals, you can prioritise your time, your energy, and the resources that you have within your environment. Remember that other dimension, the environment. And your resources need to also be within the context of that environment. Instead of being distracted by every opportunity or demand, you begin to stay focused on what matters most and what matters most to you. Measurable progress. Goals allow you to measure how far you've come. And you need to have the measurement in so that you can see where you're going. You can see that trajectory. This helps you to stay accountable, again, to stay focused and to adjust your approach if necessary. And it's like any project. We'll reach a milestone. We need to be flexible. There might be something we need to change. Small milestones along the way also gives us a greater sense of achievement once we reach that particular milestone or goal. Personal growth, striving for goals, encourages learning. Again, resilience. That resilience is about, having your setback, but getting right back up there again in that driving seat, and further enhances one's development. You get the chance to stretch your abilities, overcome your fears, and build discipline. And of course, this then leads to self-improvement. And then you have that greater sense of purpose, and you also have that reward. Again, flows dopamine, that sense of achieving something. Those goals connect with your daily actions to create a bigger picture, the bigger picture that you wanted in your life, whether it's career success, personal development, or making a difference in the world in service to others. Goals can give your life that deeper meaning, that deeper purpose. So in summary, you need to set SMART goals. SMART. Specific, S for Pacific. Write down what is precisely to be done in as much detail as you can, and why and how it is to be done. When you know the why, you're educated. You're educated as to what it is that has to be done. You then pull the resources, and that allows for you to do it, to achieve it. It needs to be measurable. Make sure you can measure your goal or goals. That keeps you on track. It makes you feel, yeah, you know what, I'm getting there. So those goals, you measure them and they are attainable. Yes, goals need to challenge you, but you also need to be able to reach them. Otherwise, you lose focus. If you've decided that you're going to climb Kilimanjaro, for example, but you haven't actually, looked at how you're going to do that, and you say, yeah, I'm just going to do it. Well, you haven't planned. You're not going to reach the top of Kilimanjaro. So it needs to be achievable. It needs to be sustainable. And then that gives you hope. And hope is what sustains us in life. Hope is the greatest gift that we can give to ourselves. And if goals help us to achieve that and to put hope in focus, well, great. There's that intervention that allows for us to have the best life possible. We also need to be realistic. You need to be able to achieve this goal, even though there are some constraints along the way. Expect them. They're going to happen. Keep them timely. It needs to be achieved, even satisfied, within realistic timeframes that you put in place for you. And it's not about, I'm going to do a marathon and I'm going to go out this week and really train very hard and I'm going to keep that up for X amount of weeks. It's about saying, yeah, I'm going to do the marathon. I'm going to get my body ready through eating and sleeping, and I might take this week working this part of my strategy and then the next part of my strategy. We don't do it all together. If we do it all together, we could fail because we tire out. So it has to be timely within our time frames that suit what we're doing. So let's pick a dimension. Emotionality. Let's apply the SMART goals to emotionality. Emotions, using SMART goals. So, summary, they need to be specific, they need to be measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So that's what the SMART is standing for. S, specific, M, measurable, A, achievable, R, relevant, T, time-bound. Now, more than Oz on the dimensions of life will be using these. The greatest athletes in the world use SMART goals to stay focused and to achieve what it is they want to do. Business people in this world are using the very same strategy. And it works. And that's why we're going to use it here as well. So to emotionally regulate, say looking at anxiety, it's or maybe we're going to be looking at finance, or we're going to look at job security. Any of the dimensions, you can apply these SMART goals to it. And it's a powerful way to move from a fear-based spiraling into something that's more structured, where you can feel confident and that you can literally action. To emotionally regulate, for example, my anxiety. And maybe I have an anxiety about not being able to get a job that pays the bills. Well, how do I put my SMART goals in place? First, I need to practice maybe daily emotional regulation techniques. And those particular techniques need to be specific. It might be something like practicing grounding, where I'm literally feeling my feet on the ground and I'm taking specific breaths in. And I'm able to measure this too. For example, I will start my grounding exercises week 1, and I might do them 3 times a day. And by the end of week 1, I'm going to look and see how am I feeling. Maybe I look at where my anxiety has been triggered, and I'm going to see how effective this particular technique is that I've used. So I'm measuring that goal. Is it achievable? Well, I'm working on my anxiety. So I'm going to give the grounding techniques maybe 5 minutes per day, maybe 3 times in the day. That's achievable. I've got a busy life, but I'm going to be able to do that. I need to keep it relevant because I need to put in place something that helps to manage my anxiety to remain productive in my life. So it means something to me. It's really important that I manage and regulate my anxiety in order to be able to do the things that I want to do. I'm very worried about paying my bills. That's creating anxiety, but at the same time, I need to ground so I can think clearly as to how am I going to get around paying these bills? What resources am I going to put in place? And it's time bound, and it needs to be time bound so that we can see what we have achieved, and that helps to motivate us and keep our drive in place. So we start today and we do it daily, maybe for 1 week or 2 weeks. So this is the SMART goal. And I'll practice my deep breathing for 5 minutes each morning, maybe for the next 14 days, to reduce my anxiety and to improve my focus for my job search, because I need the clarity to go out and look for the jobs that are going to help me to pay bills. Then I'm looking at identity and challenge. And I'm going to identify the negative thoughts that I have around the possibilities of being able to pay my bills. Those negative thoughts are creating the anxiety. So what are those negative thoughts? What are they about, and how are they challenging me? I log them, look at them, and then I can reframe them. And I can reframe them by using something called CBT. It's cognitive behavioural therapy, where I'm looking at my thoughts, my feelings, and what actions I'm doing for those thoughts. So how do I change the thought? How do I reframe the sentences I'm putting in that are negative and creating the anxiety in my life? So I look at those thoughts daily. Again, I measure 1 thought or 1 per day in a journal. I analyse it, I focus in on it, and I see how I can reframe it. And then I put that into practice, where I'm changing the narrative of my negative thinking. It needs to be achievable. So again, a short time, 1 thought per day, something doable, something that's relevant, allows me to reframe my catastrophizing thoughts in relation to getting a job and having income that's going to pay my bills. Time bound again. Maybe I'm going to put this routine in, or this rhythm, a new rhythm, in for 10 days. And then there's the SMART goal. For the next 10 days, I will write down, I'm going to focus in on 1 anxious thought about my job prospects. I'm going to reframe it with a more balanced, realistic thought. That allows for a new perspective to be adopted. Then guess what? Next SMART goal, I'm going out on my job search, and I'm also going to keep it that structured. Might put a spreadsheet in place. Look at the type of jobs I'm looking at. Where am I looking at these jobs? And I'm going to apply to 5 jobs maybe each week for the next 4 weeks. I'm going to track them. And then something might come along with, maybe I need to upskill or refresh. Maybe I need to refresh my resume. New SMART goal. By the end of the next 2 weeks, I will complete 1 LinkedIn learning course and maybe update my resume accordingly. And there's loads of free courses on LinkedIn in relation to how to upload my resume, so I don't have to pay anyone to do that. Then I put in my setting of boundaries around my worry time. And there's one particular thing that I encourage individuals to do. If I have worries, I need to limit my time worrying. Write your worry down in a post-it, put it away and say, maybe at 7:30 this evening I'm going to look at that worry. But don't look at that worry for longer than a half an hour. After writing it down, you've actually moved it from your head onto something that's external. It's outside of you. Once you commit to looking at it later on, you've given it attention. That stops it from ruminating in your head. Go back, look at it, but only for a half an hour. You might be surprised. The worry may be gone by the time you get back to literally having a look at it. So the evening, half an hour, and don't go later than 9 o'clock in the evening. Okay, so let's refresh a little bit. Let's summarize very slowly. This approach doesn't just reduce my anxiety, it channels it into something like motivation, into action, which increases my sense of control and confidence. And that grows because I give it time to grow. My anxiety becomes a signal to create structure. It's not going to be a barrier. I'm not seeing it as a barrier now. It has taken on a new meaning. Then, on the topic of goals, there are different types of goals too that can relate to me. And in Lent, I can put those SMART goals in for long term, I can put them in medium term, and I can put them in for short term. And in episode 2, I'm going to focus more closely on emotionality, what it means, and again, how you can work on this dimension to support anything from anxiety to anger and a whole lot of emotions in between. Thank you.